Hello, Shannon here. It's been a while since I've done a video. I've got so many things going on in life. It's just really hard to find the time. Today, I would like to go over the book of Hosea, at least the first couple chapters, if not three. And today, I'm going to do something very different. God showed me this just a couple weeks ago. We are going to go over the book of Hosea in the aspects of Adam and Eve. I'm going to show you how what I've taught so far on Adam and Eve being flesh versus spirit is actually hidden in the book of Hosea. And we'll know by the aspects of what's being described. So I've looked up all the names of the characters because we're going to see what archetypes are being played by who in the story and who God is speaking to and who is he speaking of, because I believe that there's a God that is honoring a people, and then there's a God that's not honoring not a people who eventually are his people. And so we're going to discuss that. I'm going to read to you the first 2 to 3 chapters, and I'm working out of the interlinear Bible because I've looked up some words in the Hebrew. I like to use that Bible to look up things from the concordance, and there's numbers so that I can get a deeper meaning of things. So I'm going to be looking down, not so much up, through this video because I'm going to be reading my notes, and hopefully my contacts will allow me to see it because they've been giving me problems today. Anyway, let's get started. The book of Hosea. You have Hosea, which means he saves or he helps, and Gomer's name means complete or whole. Now, Hosea is considered the husband, and Gomer is going to be the wife. I want us to look at the meaning of the name Hosea. He saves or he helps. We know that Eve in the garden is called the helper. She was given to God as an helper, and her seed saves. So I believe that Hosea is representing Eve in this book. I believe that Gomer represents Adam. Now, Gomer is Hosea is the son of Beri, which means belonging to a fountain. Gomer is the son of, let's see, where is that? Gomer is the son of, no, Hosea is the son of Beri, and Gomer is the daughter of, gosh, where are my notes? I'm not following them. Well, I will see it in a minute, but the name means cluster of figs. So let's get started with the chapter. In the days of Uzziah, which means my strength is God, Jotham, which means Jehovah is perfect, Ahaz, which means has held, and Hezekiah, which means God gives strength. And in the day of Jeroboam, which means he that opposes the people, the son of Joash, which means given by the Lord, king of Israel. The beginning of the speaking of Jehovah by Hosea. And Jehovah said to Hosea, which means he saves or he helps, I believe, an archetype of Eve. And remember, I said that Eve was the real husband in the garden and Adam was actually the wife. And I believe that this book is going to prove a lot of what I have gone over as correct. Go take yourself a wife of harlotry and children of harlotry. For the land is another way of saying earth, and we know that those like Adam are of the earth, has utterly gone lusting away from Jehovah. Now, the reason I believe that that is referring to Adam is because how can land do that if we're speaking of literal land? I believe we're speaking about people, and we know that those like Adam are of the earth or land. And he went and took Gomer, which means complete or whole, representing Adam or flesh, and he's the daughter of, or the daughter of Diblaim, which means cluster of figs, who conceived and bore him a son. And Jehovah said to him, call his name God will sow, Jezreel, or may God give. For yet in a little while I will visit the blood of Jezreel on the house of Jehu, Jehu meaning Jehovah is he, and will cause the kingdom of the house of Israel to cease. And it shall be in that day I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. And she conceived again and bore a daughter. And he said to him, call her name No Mercy, or Lo Ruhamah. Also means to not pitied or not loved, but it means no mercy. For I will not again still have mercy on the house of Israel, but will completely take them away. I will have mercy on the house of Judah. Okay, now let's go back to Jezreel. Now, I believe that this whole story is Adam and Eve. And the first son is called I will sow a seed, Jezreel. Now, let's look at Cain and Abel and Seth as the children that we're talking about. Cain being Jezreel, and we know in that story there was a seed sown in Cain. Now, I believe that God sows both kinds of seed. And the reason I believe this is because in the beginning, when in Genesis, God, Elohim says the man has become as one of us, knowing good from evil. Well, if he's like one of God, God sowed that seed. And so Jezreel, in my opinion, is a representation of Cain. No mercy, or Lo Ruhamah, would be Abel, who received absolutely no mercy when he was killed. Okay? And will save them by Jehovah their God. Now he's saying he's going to save Judah by their God. Okay? Meaning not him, but by their God. Okay, now let's talk about Israel and Judah for a minute. I said in my previous videos that spiritually, Eve represents Israel and Adam represents Judah. That's the spiritual part. Physically, they're the opposite. Because she is flesh of Adam's flesh, her flesh equals Judah. And Adam's flesh is Israel. Now, why do I say that? Israel means God is with us. I believe that the God of spirit is with Eve and the God of flesh is with Adam. So when we're looking at the word and we're sons of Israel and sons of Judah, and all those things can be mixed up if you don't know what God is speaking and to whom he's speaking to and why. So I'm telling you that Eve is Israel spiritually, but Judah physically. Adam is spiritually Judah and physically Israel. And the name Israel gives it away because Adam has the God of flesh with him and Eve has the God of spirit with her. Okay, and she having weaned no mercy. Now let's talk about that. Weaned, I looked it up, it also means ripened. Now when we're ripe comes transformation or death. Death and transformation are the same thing. We're no more on the milk, which is the rules, but we're on the meat. The rules give a knowledge of good and evil. We're not operating from that place. And so we know that Abel was given no mercy and he literally died, which is a picture of Yeshua, who also was given no mercy. Then she conceived and bore a son. Then he said, call his name not my people, lo ami, and I will not be for you. For you are not my people, and I will not be for you. Okay, well, that would be Seth. Seth is the third. You have death, burial, resurrection. Seth, now remember, Eve said, when Seth was born, I begat a man, meaning not in a husband form, but this man has my spirit within him. Now, he's not his people. Why? Because right now, God is for those like Adam, a people. He doesn't even call them his people. He calls them a people in the next paragraph. Or actually in chapter 2, we'll get to it. So he is speaking of both, and he's talking about both of them being an adulterous wife. Well, each one, Adam and Eve, are both an adulterous wife to the opposite God. Adam is serving the God of flesh, so Eve would be an adulterous wife to the God of flesh, while Adam is serving the God of flesh, but would be the adulterer to the God of spirit. Now we know the God of spirit is the one and only. So I'm telling you this to kind of help you follow me with this book. Lo ami, and I'll, okay. So yes, the number of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which is not measured or numbered, and it shall be in the place where it is said to them, you are not my people. It shall be said to them, sons of the living God. And the sons of Judah and the sons of Israel shall be gathered together, and shall set themselves one head, and they shall go up and out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel, where I will sow my seed. Okay, now that day of Jezreel is when God is going to sow his seed in those like Adam, and they will become one. She's already flesh of his flesh, so she's already one in the fleshly nature. But we are awaiting Adam to become one in the spiritual nature like Eve. So the day of Jezreel is when the circumcision of heart of those like Adam who still have not yet been circumcised in the heart will be circumcised in the heart. Chapter 2, say to your brothers, a people, and to your sisters, mercy. Strive with your mother, for she is not my wife and I am not her husband. Okay, now let's just think about that for a minute. Eve was the husband, Hosea, who took Adam to be her wife. Okay, now in this second chapter, we're going to look at the opposite. Okay, say to your mother, who was not my wife, nor I was her husband. Okay, Eve was not Adam's wife. Adam, she was actually his husband. Now, Adam was not her husband because he was not a husband at all. He was just man. So we want to get straight who's talking about who. And look, I've worked on this for more than 2 weeks. And when you look at it, it can be very, very confusing. You have to follow the garden scene and go back and see all of the key words that show you who is who. So, for she is not my wife and I am not her husband. Therefore, let her put her harlotry from her face and her adulteries from between her breasts. Now, between means in the midst of. And another word that I found that goes back to the Hebrew root would be a field, in the midst of the field. That I not strip her naked and set her out as in the day that she was born, and make her as the wilderness, and place her like a dry land, and kill her with thirst. And I will not have pity for her sons, for they are the sons of harlotry. Okay, now, let's go back. Say to your brothers, a people. That's different than not my people. There's a people and not my people who become sons of living God or my people. And then you have mercy rather than no mercy as the sisters. Okay, so you got two kinds of people that we're talking about. We're talking about the other kind, that the mercy, the sisters that are mercy, they're not like the other, no mercy. That would be Abel, who had no mercy. Now, you can look at it the opposite way because, we often live up to our names. So, I mean, either way, it is very confusing, but I think if you look back at it, you look at all of everything that has to say in the garden and then go back to this, you'll see what I'm seeing. Now, he says he will make her the wilderness and place her like a dry land and kill her with thirst. Okay, now remember, was Adam thirsty? No, because Eve gave him the water of life and gave him the bread of life herself. Now, he was thirsty in that he was not drinking of the water that quenched thirst. So he says, I will not have pity on her sons, for they are the sons of harlotry. For their mother is a harlot. She who conceived them has acted shamefully, for she said, I will go after my lovers who give my bread and my water, my wool and my flax. Which that should make you think of Proverbs 31:10, the virtuous wife. Okay? All these things really do represent Eve. She was the one who gave the wool, the flax, well, the God in her. Um, the oil represents the Holy Spirit, and my drink, the water that will never leave you thirsty again. Therefore, behold, I will hedge your way with thorns. Thorns pierce symbolically of the piercing for transgressions, like Adam did to Eve when he pierced her for her transgressions, and saying, it was this woman that you gave me, God. That's what thorns represent, are those who pierce for transgressions. And that should take you to some other things, like the apostle that wanted the thorn taken from his side. Well, the side is where the spirit came from, Eve, and the thorn would be the flesh that's piercing for transgressions. We do this to ourselves and we do this to others. But there are those of us who cover and lay it down and take the blame. And we are one or the other. And that's all this is speaking of. This entire book, I believe, is speaking of this, going back and forth from one to the other to describe and explain who is who. The wheat and the tares is who this is describing again. Okay, God said, in all thy ways acknowledge me, and I will make your path straight. That's for those who are walking the way of Eve. But he's saying, I will hedge your way with thorns. He says, and I will wall up her wall, that she shall not find her paths. And remember, in all thy ways acknowledge me, and I will direct your path. Um, Adam did not acknowledge Eve or the God in her, and he shall follow after her lovers, but he shall not overtake them. Now remember that the enemy is not allowed to overtake those who are like God, those who belong to God. That would be those like Eve. And so he's going after all of his lovers because they're showering all this grace and coverings over him. They are the oil and the flax, the wool, and but he's not giving it back to them is the point. He's going from one to one to one. Lovers means more than one. So he's not returning. He is not making anyone his wife. He's just going where he can go to get the fruit. Like Adam, he just wanted the fruit. He went and hid in the garden. Basically, Adam hunted Eve and all of the others after. He tried to overtake her. Now, he did get her flesh. He got her to be like him in the fleshly nature, but he did not overtake her spirit. Now it says, and she shall look for them, but she shall not find them. Then she will say, I will go and return to my first husband, for then it was better with me than now. For she did not know that I gave her grain and wine and oil, and I multiplied her silver and gold, that they prepared for Baal. Now, Baal means master. So are we talking about some kind of a physical idol made out of gold and silver? No, we're talking about people. Everything is describing people here. And once we get that, we're going to understand what the real message is. So she didn't know that it was God giving the grain. Well, God was giving it through Eve. That's how he does it, through the virtuous wife. That's how God is giving it. So I will return and take my grain in its time and my wine in its season, and I will take back my wool and my flax. She uses to cover her nakedness. Now, what did Adam do? He used Eve to cover his nakedness by blaming her and the God that gave her to him. And that's what this entire chapter is about. He is addressing what happened. And what's funny is that I didn't even know any of this stuff until a couple weeks ago. I didn't look at it that deeply. I read it, but I didn't see these things because I was busy working on what was going on in the garden. And so this is really God sealing the deal and sealing the fact that what I'm saying is what happened. So, of course, I feel a bit redeemed today with this video. I was quite thrilled when I saw this. Yes, Adam used Eve and God to cover his nakedness with his words. It was this woman you gave me. And now I will uncover her shamefulness to the eyes of her lovers. What am I doing right now? I'm uncovering her shamefulness. I'm uncovering who Adam really was in the garden. To all of those who continue to cover and love, because that's what we were put here to do. We were put here to say, yep, I did it. I believed. It was my fault. Not your fault, Adam. It's my fault. He will make those who were blind to Adam's choice not to love see. This is what God is doing through me. He's allowing me to show what's going on so that we can see. Those who were blind can see. Those are the ones who hear the voice of the Father. Anyone else watching this video is not going to see it. It's not me with the problem. It's the eyes that are looking and the ears that are listening. Yes, and a man shall not deliver her out of my hand. Okay, what man delivered the others, those like Eve, out of his hand? Yeshua. What he's saying is there's not going to be a man coming to die for those that are like Adam, because Adam was given the opportunity to become like Eve, to cover and take the blame rather than pointing a finger and covering himself with someone else. He's supposed to confess his sin one to another, and he did not do that. Yeshua died for the fleshly sins of those with the right heart. That's why I said he died for Judah. Their God is him, because Judah's the flesh that still breaks the rules but has the heart of God, breaking rules for the right reasons, just like Eve, who broke the rule for the right reason in the garden. There are sometimes times when we have to break certain rules to keep the highest, which is to love. I will cause all her joy to cease, her feast days, her new moons, and her Sabbaths, and all her solemn feasts, and I will destroy her vines and her fig trees. Now remember, Gomer is the daughter of Diblaim, which means cluster of figs. And what tree was cursed to die? The fig tree. Jesus cursed it to die. Okay, now remember, she's also flesh of his flesh. All flesh dies, but we're speaking of those on the inside. Okay, let me go back and make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, the feasts and festivals. I've always said that the Old Testament is where the rules and regulations are found. It's where the yearly feasts and festivals and things are found. Now, it's, in my opinion, another religion that has nothing to do with relationship, and I'm showing that right now through Adam and Eve, that the Word was all about how to have a relationship, not religion. These yearly things mean nothing if the heart is not right, and he's getting rid of them. Gomer, daughter of Diblaim, which means cluster of figs, of which she has said, they are my rewards that my lovers have given to me. All I will set them for a forest, and the beasts of the field shall eat them. Okay, now remember, the beasts of the field are those like Adam. And he's basically making them a forest for the beasts to eat them.